The Boy from Yesterday, Chapter 32, 23 Minutes. With everything that was going on at Laurel's house, Laurel hadn't been returning text messages from Emily, who was having a late dinner at the Rocket. Emily was there alone, which she did from time to time, having the chicken pot pie special that Trixie recommended so highly. "I just like the crust, and normally I don't like crust, but Ernie does them real good," Trixie said, as she set down the plate as Emily only briefly glanced up from her phone with a quick, "Thanks." She was texting TJ back. He had asked, "What up, girl?" and she had typed back, "L, no response to text. Hope she is okay. Have an idea. We'll report later." Indeed, Emily did have an idea, and a rather simple one, too, to solve the problem of the stolen ring. After she tipped Trixie nicely and left Rocket, she headed west toward the rented house that Peter and Christian shared a handful of blocks away. Her heart pounded during the walk, not quite sure what she was doing, but feeling like she had to try it anyway. She nervously swung the little silver unicorn pendant on her necklace as she walked, back and forth on its delicate silver chain, pinched between her thumb and forefinger. She was looking down, rehearsing what she was going to say to Christian, when she approached the house. The sound of the front door closing ahead made her look up. It was Peter, leaving the house with his jacket and backpack on, sexy with his unshaven, scruffy face and tousled hair. "Em, hey!" he called, slowing down but not really stopping to chat. "What's up?" Emily was caught off guard. For some reason, she hadn't planned on Peter being home. She wanted to talk to Christian alone. "Oh," she said, a little too surprised. I'm just returning a book that Lars borrowed from Christian. After all that's happened, she didn't want to return it herself. They're not really talking, so I offered, I'll just drop it off. Is he home?" Peter stopped now and turned back. "Well, yeah, but maybe it's not such the best time," as he gestured a silent tipping of the glass gesture and nodding toward the house behind him, rolling his eyes, shaking his head, shrugging his shoulders. "Oh, okay, I'll just be a second," Emily said, determined not to let Christian's probably inebriated state stop her. Maybe it could help. Maybe he would give her the ring in a drunken, impulsive moment, and all this would be fine. "You off to see Tej?" she said, eager to change the subject. "Yeah, later on. I have some studying to do first at the library. We have some things to talk about to try to help this whole situation," Peter said. "Situation?" Emily asked, wanting to know just how much Peter knew. Peter smiled. Tej told me. "Sorry to hear. He can be weird sometimes," Peter said, nodding toward the apartment and Christian's direction. "He didn't tell me anything. He's just kind of been keeping to himself. But he's been online a lot, searching for something, I think." "I think I know what he's searching for," Emily said, concerned. "Yeah, I guess he must be." "Shit. What happens if he..." Peter said. "I don't know," Emily said. "What are you going to do? You going to talk to him?" "I tried, but..." Peter said, shrugging and shaking his head. "This whole thing is wild, huh? Who would have thought? I really want to talk to Tom more, you know? There's so much to ask if we have time before he goes, well, you know, home, I guess is the word. Tej and I are still trying to make sense of it all. You coming by Rocket later?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, maybe. Maybe Lars will be back in communication by then. I worry when I don't hear from her." "What's going on with her and Tom? Any progress on finding those magic words?" Dang, I can't believe I really said that. I mean, what the hell? Magic words in Chesterfield? That stuff doesn't just happen. How are they handling it?" Peter said. "I don't really know, but I think they're just trying to find the words somehow. She's not really letting me help, so Emily trailed off. "I'm just doing whatever I can think of to help. Like this book thing. It isn't much, but I gotta try something to help. You know, it's Lars. Still, this whole thing is pretty freaky. I still worry about the cops or the news getting a hold of this. I know Lars and Tom want no part of that, and I can see why. I think it's just us. We should all talk later." "At Rocket?" Peter said. "Yeah, I think. I'll have to see. I have to study later, too," Emily said. "Okay, cool. Look, I'm really sorry. I just didn't know," Peter said, shrugging. "It's okay," Emily said. "I have some ideas, but I'll just have to get this out of the way first." "Cool. See you soon, I hope." Peter said as he went off, a spring in his step that carried him away quickly. Emily was left with an especially quiet, dark street. The street light next to the house was out. There was no one around, like everyone was either asleep or on vacation. Only the street light down the block was on, and it wasn't shining on anyone, just a pool of light on the sidewalk and on a nearby parking meter. She took a deep breath and walked up to the door of Christian and Peter's house. She knocked, timidly at first, twice, then paused and knocked again, 3 times, this time harder. She heard a rustling inside, then a crash like something that was knocked over. From inside she could barely hear Christian's voice. "Fuck!" he yelled, at no one in particular, but sounding like he was in pain. It seemed like he was yelling fairly loudly, but the thick brick walls and the heavy front door muffled it, except for what she could hear right at the door. It opened a small crack. "Yeah," Christian said, not really seeing who it was, but then she realized he did. "What do you want?" Emily swallowed hard and cleared her throat. "I want to talk, Christian. Can I come in?" He smirked and sarcastically said, "Yeah, sure. Sounds like a party." He opened the door wide enough for Emily to come in. She was still playing with her pendant. "So?" Christian said in an annoyed tone of voice and shrugging. Emily could see he held a big glass bottle in his left hand, and he shut the door behind her with his right. The door to Peter's room was just down the hall and was closed. The living room was a mess of beer bottles, an empty vodka bottle of a cheap brand, and an empty cardboard pizza box. She looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 10:01 p.m., and the clock's second hand made a jerky tick-tick-tick clicking sound as it moved. "What?" Christian repeated, taking a big swig from the bottle he held, which Emily could see now was one of the same cheap vodka brands as the empty bottle on the floor. "I just want to talk to you. You know, about what happened the other night," Emily said, somewhat sadly but firmly. "You're not getting my ring back, if that's what you mean," Christian said, flashing the ring on his left hand as he took another swig from the bottle and set it down on the coffee table and leaned against the wall of the living room. "It's not yours, Christian. Come on. Laurel and Tom need that ring. It's special. You know it's the magic that brought Tom here. He needs it to get back home, to his own time. You can do other things," Emily said, almost compassionately. "This thing is mine, fair and square," Christian growled. "He stole my girlfriend, I steal his stupid ring. Ugly piece of crap anyway. It better be real gold so I can hock it if it doesn't do magic or whatever the fuck. I don't know how it works, but if it made that jerk fly through time, it can do something for me. This is my way out. The old-time dude will just have to do without." "Christian, please. You're too good for this. I know it," Emily said, her voice rising. "How do you know? Hey, what's in it for you? Did they promise you they'd make this thing get you $1 million or something?" Christian said, looking Emily over. "No, that's not it. They don't even know I'm here. Lars is my best friend, and I care about what happens to her, and to the people she cares about," Emily said. "Oh, like Tom? Her little 19th century boyfriend, or whatever the fuck that freak is? What about me? Or am I no longer on the list of people that little Miss Laurel cares about? Who gives a shit? It's all that freak she dumped me for," Christian said, his voice rising too. "Christian, it's not like that. Things just don't work out sometimes. It had nothing to do with Tom. Look, I know you're better than this. Let me have the ring back for Tom. If not for him, then for her. You don't know what could happen. You don't know what you're doing," Emily said, emphasizing the last words in her plea. Christian stood there a moment, keeping still, and glared at Emily. He said nothing. Then a smirk passed his lips, and he looked her over head to toe, smirking wider. "I know what you're doing," Christian said, in a sing-song tone, teasingly. "I'm just—" Emily started, but Christian interrupted her with something she wasn't expecting. "You're turning me on, that's what you're doing," Christian said, suddenly and angrily, bouncing his eyebrows in mock flirtation. Emily's heart sank to hear that. She wanted to hear that from Christian, even fantasized about it, but in her daydreams she never allowed herself to really hear him say it. She felt too guilty liking her best friend's boyfriend, and when she did allow herself, however guiltily, to fantasize it, it wasn't like this. Christian wasn't drunk in her fantasies. He wasn't disheveled. He didn't stink. Emily was taken aback by what he said, and it took her a second to gain the composure to respond. You have to understand. Laurel is my best friend, and she needs, Emily blurted before she was interrupted again. I don't care what she needs anymore. She's with that science fiction freak she's got there. No, sir. But I bet I know what you need. Yeah, I bet I do. Do you? Christian said, moving toward Emily. She instinctively backed away, but further into the hallway, nearer the open door to Christian's room. That's not why I'm here, Christian. I'm here, she tried to get out. Yeah, for what? For me? Come on, it's not like I haven't noticed. You're hot for me, I know you are. Admit it, Christian said, moving toward her, only with none of the charm she had seen in him that he used on Laurel. It was different. It was drunken. It was almost otherworldly. It was like he didn't see her, but someone else that he had total contempt for. That's crazy, Christian, really. I'm not, Emily said, feeling her adrenaline spike, not because she was attracted, but because she was scared. No one knew where she was except Peter, and he was away on campus. She hadn't told anyone in hopes that she could secretly broker the ring back just by appealing to Christian's love for Laurel. If not now, then at one time in the past. She realized as he crept closer to her in the dim light of the hallway that now this all seemed like a really bad idea. Forget it, she thought. Never mind. I'll work with T.J. Peter and Laurel and Tom themselves to get the ring back, but not alone. Not like this. For now, all she wanted was to leave and put this idea behind her. But Christian's large frame blocked the hallway door and her escape. She was about to brush past him down the hall and outside when he raised his voice. She knew that sound, loud inside, couldn't be heard outside. You're not what, Emily? You're not attracted to me? You're too good for me? Maybe we'll see about that, huh? Maybe you're trying to tell me that you, little Miss Sour Lemon, you're too good for me? 'Cause what? You're all smartsy-fartsy? That means you're not one of us? I don't think so. I think you're full of shit is what you are, Emily. You're just nothing without Laurel. You're nothing without, Christian snarled as he reached out toward Emily's neck and grabbed the unicorn pendant in his hand and ripped it off from around her neck, breaking the delicate silver chain and chucking the necklace behind him. Emily could hear it bounce hard off the front door. She was terrified now. That necklace meant the world to her. It had been a gift from her mom on her last birthday when she was worried about starting Chesterfield University, and her mother had given it to her with the card that said, "Believe and all things are possible," referring to the myth of the unicorn. Emily thought all of this in the millisecond that she heard the necklace hit the front door. Christian grabbed her by the shoulders and kissed her hard again like nothing she had fantasized. In her fantasies, Christian's kiss was decadent, sweet, sexy, and exhilarated. This kiss disgusted her. She instinctively swung up and slapped him hard. "Back off! Get a hold of yourself!" Emily yelled, surprised at her own strength. "Shit!" Christian yelled, grabbing his cheek with his left hand that had the ring on it. "What the fuck, bitch? You think you're tough? You think you're better than me? Is that any way to treat the man you love? Is that all you got for me? Yeah? Well, I got something for you, Em." He reached out and slapped her back hard, and she could feel her teeth cut the inside of her cheek. He grabbed her again, this time reaching up her skirt as he grabbed her behind the neck with his other hand, guiding her backwards and onto the floor of his bedroom. He didn't much knock her down as he pushed her down, and she felt her feet go out beneath her. When she was on the ground, his hand moved from the back of her neck to being cupped over her mouth. His fingers were warm and wet and trembling a little, but they pressed hard over her mouth. She instinctively breathed harder through her nose, her mind racing, trying to think of ways to escape. There were no objects around to try to grab to hit him with. The weight of his bigger body seemed to weigh a ton on her smaller body, pinning her arms to the ground as if they were paralyzed. She wanted to do anything to get him off her. In that moment she wanted him dead, but the weight was too great. There was nowhere to go. What happened next changed Emily forever. His hands smelled of alcohol, and she tried to breathe through her nose as she choked back tears and swallowed small amounts of salty blood that she could taste in her mouth from the cut inside her cheek from the slap. She could only see the light fixture on the ceiling, just in her sight line above Christian's head outside the bedroom door. It was round, with white frosted glass, with a metal-tipped finial holding the cover on. She focused on the light fixture and seemed to be floating up toward it, out of her body. Time passed. She didn't know how long. When she came to awareness again, she was stumbling down the hall as fast as she could, but still unsteady on her feet. She looked down at the carpet near the front door, which was all she was aiming for. She saw the gleam of her necklace on the floor and bent over to pick it up, her back stiff and sore. She didn't even look at the pendant, but clutched it tightly in one hand as she opened the front door with the other. She didn't know what made her glance behind her, except to see if Christian was following her, perhaps trying to keep her from leaving, but she didn't see or hear him. He might have passed out in the bedroom. She looked up in the dim light and saw the clock on the wall again. It was 10:24. Only 23 minutes had passed while she was there. 23 minutes, and her life would never be the same. She didn't come to awareness again until after she had walked silently but quickly 3 blocks away from Christian's house. It was particularly dark, as a few dark clouds obscured the light of the moon, and more street lights were broken here and there on the streets. There weren't many people out, just an older man walking a poodle down the block. She looked down at the sidewalk as she walked, making her way toward home. She unclenched her fist that held the necklace. She looked down to see the tiny chrome unicorn. Its horn had been broken off and was lost. It was just a horse now, with a little stub where the horn used to be. Emily wiped a tear away and shoved the necklace in her pocket, but she straightened up and wiped her nose with the back of her hand and walked a little faster now. She knew she should probably go to the police station or to the emergency room of Chesterfield Hospital, just a few blocks east. But what would she say? Involving the police when Christian's father was chairman of the police commission? When Christian's mother co-chaired the annual police ball? When involving the police about this would mean Christian doing something, anything, that would distract and delay Laurel and Tom, and the ring would be in some police property locker when Christian was arrested? No. She couldn't risk that. She wouldn't tell them. She wouldn't tell anyone. And she just wanted to be left alone. She just wanted to get home. And she was home, in no time. The house was dark, except for one little lamp on the end table in the living room that her mother always left on. Her parents were already asleep. They had thought she was just out at the library studying, or maybe was at the Rocket with TJ or Laurel. She stopped by the kitchen and wrote a quick note trying to make it look normal even though her hand was shaking. It told her parents that she had come home with the stomach flu and not to wake her up in the morning. Stinging and sore, tiny bits of crusted blood at the corner of her mouth, she wanted to keep her clothes on, but she kicked off her shoes and pulled the shade on her window. She moved like an automaton, taking her clothes off and shoving them into an old shopping bag that she had then put into her bedroom trash can. She went into the bathroom and took a quick shower, going through the motions, and came back to her room. She climbed into bed, pulling the covers especially close. Here she was home again, back to the way things were, or as close as she could come to it. Here there was no Christian Tuckerby. Here there were no time travelers or rings or empty bottles. Here there were no problems. Here she was safe. She noticed the glow of the clock radio on the table near her bed. It was glowing its red numbers. It read 11:14 and turned 11:15. But unlike a wall clock, it didn't have moving parts. It didn't tick. She liked it that way.